All right, got a little bit of free time here. Another quick Bitcoin update. I got the trend lines turned off here. Um, Been kind of a interesting week so far. This is kind of like the third Monday in a row in the last 3 weeks that they open pump the market due to news or whatever. But we got yesterday's Monday open. You know, basically saying there was a ceasefire and everybody got in along, but we didn't get a lower low yet for the new weekly or daily. From Sunday, we didn't even break the low, and like I've talked about in previous videos, if you don't break the low of the weekly, monthly, daily, or whatever, that's a problem. If you're getting up, you want to come down low, get a lower wick, then come up and get a green, bigger body candle, and then get up. But we didn't. And the moving averages aren't exactly right to get up, either. So I know a lot of people got excited for the pump yesterday. And if I turn the trend lines back on, all you can see is that we did come down to a level I thought we would get down to, and we actually cracked through it and closed below it. Excuse me. And it looked like we were actually going to be on our way down, breaking out of this big pattern, I've had drawn for the last month and a half. This, kind of rising wedge we have, which, ends up being bearish in the long term. And I thought maybe we would get our break here and, we get another Magic Monday save. But now we've pumped up into the moving averages. We got slightly above the 10 SMA, and today we didn't even break the high of yesterday, and we've sold down. So that tells me that this was, an artificial pump, but we did end up getting our upper wick for, our new weekly candle. We get the 2-week and the 3-week close this Sunday at 7 o'clock Central Time. So, and a lot can happen until then, but we're still dead flat on the bottom of that 3-week candle. That's why I still think we're coming down. We're pretty much out of time really for that 3-week candle. If I go over to it, and I know I've talked about it a million times, but it's just so important, is if I go to the 3-week candle, let's get rid of trend lines. Let's just look at the candles here. Look at this. So this is our 3-week candle, that opened up about 2.5 weeks ago, and it's got 5 days left. So there's no lower wick here. At least if I would have seen a little bit of a lower wick, I would think that we could have attempt to get up here, but we've got absolutely nothing here. And we've got 5 days, 6 hours. So this just really screams to me that we are going to come back down at some point. And maybe we don't end up getting a lower wick on this candle, but the next candle, I really do think that we will break this low. They usually don't just give you, an open pump like this. It's extremely rare. So, and where we opened on this candle is right around, what is the open of this? 65,971. So I really do think that's going to break. And, I think odds are that it could even break this week. And that would actually look nice if we just barely broke it without breaking the previous 3-week, because then the 2-week would look perfect. I mean, it would be so gorgeous to dump off of. Here's our current 2-week that closed in 5 days, 6 hours. It's it's got an upper wick than the previous green week or green 2-weekly. I mean, we were dead flat on that, and we pumped off of a red. That's wrong. Now we've got a red reversal coming. Moving averages are rolling down here, so this is setting up perfect. If we can close down right around that 65K area without breaking the low of this candle, we will have a perfect 3-week, a perfect 2-week, and probably a perfect weekly to just dump off of, and it's going to happen. Like 99% chance with these moving averages rolling down. Unless there's some crazy breaking news that just saves everything. I mean, which happens, but, we try and trade what we see, not what we think, could happen. But we're going based on, candles, how they're positioned, the moving averages, the different weekly candles we get. That's how we're looking at this, and a lot of the time it proves true. So I like going on based on high averages, high average plays, and this is just kind of what I'm seeing. Let's go to the daily. Let's go back to the daily. So like I've said, we've been chopping in here. It's gonna be coming up on 2 months here before not too long. I mean, when was this candle again? Back here, February 6th, and this is the 24th. So we're looking at like another week until we've done 2 months of chopping. Just absolutely terrible trading environment, but I mean, this is probably going to set up real soon. I know I keep saying that, but unless they want to, put a fake out red and then take this higher, which, if they send another green off of a red, I can almost guarantee you we're going to come back down if we do touch this upper trend line over the next week. And it would just look so weird because it's going to change the weekly candles if we do come up here. And then it's going to, we'll have to make a separate video if that happens, where if they come up this week and they get it back up to 75 and that's where we close, this upcoming Sunday, then we'll have a green weekly, we'll have a green 2 and 3 week. So and then we can talk about maybe a chance we go higher. But while we still have these certain candles we have in place, we're still looking lower. And not to mention, like I have mentioned 100 times, this is a bearish pattern. You get your descent here from your previous pattern, and now you didn't get much for like a double bottom formation to come back up. This is, you came down and then you slowly, chopped around in a rising wedge pattern. That's what, this top yellow line and this bottom yellow line is. It's in an upward motion, upward trend chopping before our next leg down. That's why I've got this measure move drawn, because wherever we break out, that's kind of where the area will be at. I saw a lot of people tweeting out about yesterday's pump and what they were looking at, kind of the pattern within the pattern. Here's a 10-minute chart. So these green and red candles are all 10 minutes of time. I saw a lot of people had this, kind of bullish looking pattern, but I wasn't really convinced on it because everyone said this was a bull flag. So we got our initial big news pump, off of some 5-minute candles, 10-minute candles, and we made big moves in the AM yesterday. I think right around 8:30 yesterday, we just started opening firing, and then we chopped around all day long, and everyone thought that this was going to be a bull flag that we were going to, pump out of. And the reason I don't think this was a bull flag was because of how long this took in here. Originally I had it drawn something like, I think it was this. So if we take this point back here and connect those two, couple swings in there, and then there was a swing down here connected. Let's see. Something like this. So let me change the color so it kind of stands out. Just give me 1 second. So this kind of purplish sort of, this could have been a bull flag where it's, smaller, consolidation after a big move. But, and I was thinking right here we were going to break up and make that move, but, we stalled out and started to roll over, and I was like, that's not a bull flag, or, because it just pretty much, once we got out of this pattern, any hope of going up to our next measured move kind of died when we stalled out here, and then this became an even bigger pattern. So let me delete these trend lines, because that's what I originally had drawn, something similar to that. This was too big to be a bull flag, and we didn't even like complete in here, and everybody thought we were starting to break up and go there, and we kind of got a triple top up here on the 10-minute time frame. You can see that kind of a 1, 2, 3, and then it just died. We didn't go. And look at this. So if we take the top of this, and I know people were looking at this too. Let's see here. Let's see, where did they figure that this was going to break at? Might have been from down here. So the lowest low to the highest high. If we take that to the top of where we possibly could have broke out from, it would have actually taken us back up to, so this is where we were breaking out from, right there. Look where that would have taken us to. And I know everybody was eyeing it and had the measured move, because everybody thought this was a bull flag. And then here's the measured move that takes us back up to the neckline of our cup and handle that went back many months, very important area. That's where we were trading around, a couple weeks ago, back up here. And so that would have taken us there, but, that's not what happened. I actually added more size short, once I saw this start to fail. And then I lowered my stop down to the high of this candle around 72,000. So I've still got pretty big size short on, and I'm not saying it's completely impossible that Bitcoin doesn't get back up here. But, time's kind of running out here on that 3-week candle, and the 2-week is still bearish. The weekly is extremely bearish. I don't even think I've shown the weekly. Check this out. If I go to the weekly candle, zoom in. This computer's slow. Okay, weekly candle. I mean, this looks absolutely gorgeous. Let's delete the trend lines so we can see. So it's not all. This candle right here is the weekly we got last week. This is a red reversal candle. This is like our yearly candle. It even pierced through the moving averages, came back down, sold down, pretty good sized body. I would have liked it to come down maybe just a little bit further to kind of engulf the previous week, but this is still really nice. Right now, moving averages, now everything's tight in here on the weekly. We have, it does show that the 8 is above the 10, but as this week progresses, if we come down, it's going to pull the 8 closer with the 10. Everything's just really tight right now. It looks really good. Like I said, we haven't even broken the low on this candle yet. We got really freaking close, but we didn't break it. So that's another reason why I think this week we do come down in the next 5 days, 6 hours. That 3-week tells us we're probably going to come down. I mean, we've got all these reversal candles there. I mean, it would be crazy to just get up and get up off of them. I mean, it's possible. It's happened before, but I'm just playing the odds. The odds say that we're going to come down, especially, we get this red, weekly. We're probably going to get a red daily today, unless they got 5 hours still, so we'll see what happens. It'll be an inside red candle. I'd like us to come back down, sell down low, probably get down to here, or maybe sell down a little bit more on this daily, and then start to pump back up before the close. And then tomorrow we get a little pop drop where we pump up back into the moving averages, pull them down, and then get a red reversal inside of a hanging man style candle, and then we will have an absolute unicorn to just drop off of and go. We'll be ready. I mean, it'll be there, and I'll put on even more size. Let's look at the 2-day. This is the 2-day candle is the one big concern I have, because this is a very bullish candle. We've already, got a pretty good retrace. We haven't broken the high of this 2-day candle, and that kind of concerns me. I would have liked us to see us barely break the high of this candle and then come down. It's still got 1 day, 6 hours, and things can change fast. We came down to the 20 SMA right here, and we got up from there, slowly kind of grinding back up a little bit, but this is kind of a bullish candle, and this is kind of my one biggest concern. And this will close tomorrow at 7. So I want us to stay red. Um, I don't even necessarily really want us to come back up and break the high at this point because that's going to make things tricky. I want us to kind of get this inside red candle without breaking the low. Kind of come back down by tomorrow and maybe close low and bring the 8 and the 10, start to cross it to the 20. And then, we should be good after tomorrow's close to just dump it. But until then, we still have this green hammer on the 2-day, which, is in the back of my mind, which is a little bit concerning because it's got a lower wick. It's sitting tight with the moving averages. If they're going to pump this market and get it up, it's probably going to be in the next 36 hours, I would think. So who knows? Maybe they save it today and, we get a green candle, little green inside, on the daily. Maybe they pump this back up and they get like a little inside green hammer, and then, that could be interesting to see if they want to make a move higher tomorrow and maybe get to that upper trend line I was talking about, right around where that cup and handle neckline's at. Back up here. I have my trend lines turned off, but I think it's, up here where the high of this candle is. So maybe we make a move up here. But, until then, I would really like to see us get this red daily first and then get a red 2-day tomorrow. And I think the 3-day closes the day after. So right now we have a green 3-day. It broke the previous high of the 3-day, but the moving averages are starting to get really tight in here. If it can sell down, really start to move, I would say Wednesday, because we don't want this to stay green. In which has it broken the low? It has not broken the low of the previous candle, so that's good. I would like it, to come down and, break the low and go from there. Pull the 8 below the 10, and we should be good. Everything's really tight in here. This is where we should start to break down from. I think in the previous video I talked about maybe they were going to wait for the weekly or the 2 and 3 week to close. I don't even know if we'll make it until then. I don't know. Some of these moving averages are starting to get really tight. Here's the 2 week. For a 2 week candle, the moving averages are right there. So, and they're going to be pulled even tighter when, this week closes in 5 days. So the 8 and the 10 are going to be nearly touching the top of this candle once Sunday at 7 closes. Like, they are going to pull down and it's going to, be really tight. So if they're going to save it, it's probably going to be in the next 36 hours because I don't know how else they're going to do it. We're getting close to crunch time here with these 3 and 2 week. And not to mention, we got the monthly coming up, So the monthly, we have 1 week left on the monthly. The monthly closes next Tuesday, right here, 7 days, 6 hours. And, we have an inside green candle right now with not a ton of lower wick. There's a little bit, but we still haven't broken the low of the previous monthly, and the moving averages are still rolling over here. One thing that does concern me is that, the 10 hasn't crossed the 20 yet. There's some space up here. And we were pretty flat on top of February's candle. So, I want to point out some things. Along with that 2-day candle is the previous monthlies. We don't really have much for upper wick on that previous monthly. If somehow we do get up, come up towards the moving averages, which is right around 80, mid 80-ish K. Here's the 20. The 20 sitting up here at around 90K. So I don't know. Will we get an inside green candle this month? Will they somehow keep this green? And then maybe next month in April we come up and, this will kind of roll down a little bit closer. So maybe low 80s, I would say. Low to mid 80s. Could we get up to in April before coming back down? I mean, that's not kind of what I want to see. I want us to see us, get this big, massive move. We just got our double top. Now we're rolling over. We should really see a big candle down. And I feel like, a lot of worldly events are pretty negative these days. So I mean, I don't know why they can't do it. I mean, I know a lot of people are sitting here trying to buy long because they know things like the Clarity Act, could get passed or whatever. I don't know. I don't really look into that sort of stuff. I know people are really bullish on that. Legislation on crypto and stuff, and so I think people are holding on as tight as they can to their longs, but I don't know. I just still think we're coming down. Everything tells us we are. Until these candles change colors and start going green, I mean, we're just going based on what the trend is, and the trend is red. So, I mean, it's all there. We really need this 2-week to close, though. I know I keep saying that. We could come down to 65K in 5 days and close right there, and oh my God, it'll be perfect. It'll be perfect. This 2-week candle will be absolute unicornish. The 3-week will be perfect. If we can close right down right here, like 65, just get a red, reversal. Just barely, even if it's barely red, I don't care. These moving averages will be coming down, and that'll be pretty tight with the 3-week as well as the 2-week. So it's rolling over. We really should see a good size move down here coming up. I would say at least in the next month. I mean, if it's not going to be the next month, then I don't know. I mean, it's starting to get, tight again in here. Look back here. Like, we initially came down, the 10 and the 20 crossed, and then we chopped, waited for these moving averages to catch up right here. And then here's our red reversal, and then huge candle down, with the moving averages coming down. See the 8, like how it comes down with this candle and just pushes it down? Well, if we get a red candle here, this 8's going to be right there where the very next 3-week we could make a big push down. I don't know if they're going to really need one more 3-week candle in here to chop with. I mean, I know we got, 4 consecutive 3-week candles, but I don't know. I think things will be good enough in here where we could just drop, where we don't need 3 or 4 consecutive 3-week candles. I mean, oh my God, I hope not. Like, there's only so much more of this chop I can take, all jokes aside, but, and this was a big level that we took out. If we go look at it from a weekly perspective, like, whenever you take out big levels, you're going to see big moves, up or down. And, like I said, I think I have it drawn, so, like, oops, let's undo that. Like, I know I keep talking about how important this trend line is of the neckline, cup, and handle, but that's why I made it bold. When you break this level, if you come up and break it, or if you go down and break it, like, it's a big deal. You get big moves. And when we got this reversal right here, right on our, another important trend line, our kind of our bottoming trend line that goes back many months, and then you drop from it and you close below the neckline that goes back many, many months. Right here, the cup and handle. There's the neckline that comes across, very important. So many touches along that trend line. And when you close below it, and you set up in here as the moving average roll down, as I zoom back in, we're just setting up on that trend line. Our wicks are up here touching it, but we can't break above it. We're in a rising wedge. Here come the moving averages. Once we get, this proper candle set up, we should see a pretty decent move down, and I've got it drawn. This goes down to right around 45K. Like, it should happen. I think, 50, 55, 54, 53, maybe at the highest. And the lowest, we come down, and, could even get down, we could even wick lower. Like, it doesn't even just have to stop there. 48. I don't know. This looks like a area down here where we come down to, and maybe we take some of these stops out. People have stop losses down here, and we wick below them, they're going to want to come for this area going back here. And this is a big area. I remember this day a couple years ago back in July when we had that quick wick down just below 50K, and then they bought up, and then they sent it ever since. Like, they made it go so quickly. It was just a quick money grab down there. Like, look, that's a pretty good sized wick too. This candle right here. So just like I remember, like in an hour they just came down. Like it was a big sell, and then it got bought back up. Then they chopped it around, put in a big fake out candle. Although you were above the 20, the 20 held as support, and then you got it from there. But this time we're below the moving averages. So there's not much support down here. There's not a whole lot of, there is a little bit, but we're finally below the moving averages after all these weeks, of being above them and grinding higher. I mean, all you gotta do is look at this. This goes back to 2023 when we first got above the moving averages. I mean, we've been above the moving averages for freaking, almost 3 years. And we just broke through them like weeks ago. So, I'm not saying we're going to come back all the way down to the lows of, 2022 in October, but, things can happen when you start to roll over. Like, we don't know really how low we can go. We can only go based on, the patterns we have set up with the measured moves. We're looking for possible, areas of support with swings, from previous, like, this was an area of resistance in here for these swings. There were some touches back here if we go back into the dailies and look at it, although I have this on the 3 week, so it's not going to look as good. There's a touch here. I mean, I think this trend line, could be a really big area, right around 49K, slightly below 50K, so I've got that as an area. And then I'm watching, for potential of a lower wick down, right around, mid 40K. So we'll see. We got to see it first, but I think the candles are there, and we could even get even more candles to confirm that come this weekend. And I'll make another video when I see what we have, probably this weekend. I should have some more free time to make another video. And then we can see how close these moving averages get. We can see, one other thing I haven't really talked about, one other problem I kind of wanted to look at real quick, now that's just on my mind, was the potential for a weekly divergence that I've been looking at. So here it is. So we kind of have the 1, 2. However, I know a lot of people have talked about this divergence of it kind of rolling back up. I think it'll look different after this week. We could see it, come back after this week closes. We could see this kind of level out here. The thing that I'm not as worried about is that this kind of slope right here is higher than this slope, which really doesn't concern me as much. It would concern me more if the slope was lower than this slope. So like I've talked about in previous videos, if this slope is angling down, let's make this bigger, kind of show it. So like if the slope came down and sloped in here below this trend line and then started rolling up, I'd be a little more concerned. But because it's still, downward, it's not as much of a divergence to me. So I am watching it. It'll be interesting to see when this week closes if this starts to level up and start to roll back down. And that'll be something I'm looking for. But I know some people have talked about the weekly divergence, and that's just kind of what I'm seeing is that while I do see, the other hill being formed here rolling up, it is a lower low than the previous slope, so it's not as concerning to me. Let's look at the 2 week real quick. I just kind of wanted to address that real quick. Go over that. There's a little bit of a let's see, this kind of well, we're just we got 5 days, and we're gonna see what this looks like. I mean, this thing changes a lot once the closes happen, so you can see it kind of plateauing right there, but we will get the 2-week close in 5 days, and this could either get pulled way back up or it could be pulled way back down. So I don't think there's enough information on that to be concerned about. Let's look at like the 3-day, and then we'll look at the 2-day. We did have a divergence on the 3-day, but we've kind of came up back to our baseline, so it'd be kind of interesting, like, to see what happens. Like, before we came up, got to our baseline, then rolled back over. Now we're like close to our baseline. Will that be enough? And then roll back down. Let's look at the 2-day. So we're above the baseline on the 2-day, and it looks like it's starting to roll back over on the 2-day. And our 2-day candles, that we got yesterday is very bullish, like I talked about. They got that little hammer thing, but we do have like a little bit of a divergence on the 2-day. If I really zoom in here, you can kind of see it. I don't know how much weight I want to put into it, but you got that and that. Will this roll over here? Kind of interesting. Let's look at the daily. Let's see. I mean, it's rolled over. See, back here, this was a better divergence, kind of equal highs. This slope was higher than this slope, so I don't want to call that a really good divergence, but kind of see one mini divergence happening on the daily, down here. You come down, you roll up, and now you roll over again. So we'll see if we do come down here. Just some things in the back of my mind. We're right around the baseline of the MACD. Really not much given there. I think the only thing interesting really to look at is that weekly MACD. Just to keep an eye on. Maybe especially after this week, see if we start to level out here and roll down. Or if they do save the market, you'll really start to see it come up here. And then maybe we do get more of a relief rally for, however many weeks, it takes for the monthly moving averages to catch up. But I don't know. It's something I've got my eye on. So that's pretty much all I have. Bitcoin sitting at 69,500 right now. I don't really want to talk about like anything else because everything kind of follows each other in a way. Stocks got up a lot yesterday. They were falling last week, late last week. Gold and silver came down a lot. Gold's down again today. Gold took a pretty good beating this last week. So did silver. And I should have shorted some. I knew it. It had a good daily. If I go back, let's see. I think gold had a really good daily or something to short, and I didn't do it, and I should have. I could have. I like trading crypto more. Yeah, here it was. Unbelievable. I mean, there was like so many good dailies in here. There were so many good dailies to trade on gold. Oh my god. I didn't even really look at this, to be honest, but everything's really tight in here. Chopping. You could have played this candle, even though the moving averages haven't rolled over yet. But it's such a tiny candle. You just put your stop up there and then, let it ride. I mean, that's such a tiny candle. You could give it a shot. And then this candle, you close below the moving averages, and now they're starting to roll. And then you could have played this candle. I mean, you could have trailed all these highs down. Oh my god. You would have got. I mean, yeah, no, you could have traded all the red daily highs. You could have caught this entire move, and you could have traded that candle. You could have traded this candle, this candle. Here's a green candle. It's small, neutral candle. Then they put in this red candle. Now the moving averages are really starting to roll down here. Could have played that. You know, here's a big candle down. You know, no lower wick. So what do you think's going to happen? You know, you're in the middle of a move here. You got no lower wick, and then you come up just a little bit, retrace the next daily, and then boom, big vicious move down. And then you come back up before the day's over. You pump up even more the next day, and then you dump, get this inside, almost inside, broke a little bit, you know, red reversal, and then boom, huge move down. Now you're starting to get away from the moving averages, so it'll probably set up better. And then who knows, maybe we may get another leg down, or maybe they'll get a double bottom and then come back up. Who knows? But yeah, I should have played this. These were very tradable candles in here. I mean, like I've said before, when these, you know, the orange, green, and blue, the 8, 10, and the 20 moving averages, you know, all get tight for a long period of time, like, you know, tight, 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 tight. Even in here, it starts to get up, comes back, and then it gets tight again. You know, these candles are small. There's very low volume, you know, and then all of a sudden it really picks up. And then you see it start to cross the 20, and that's when big moves happen, when the moving averages start to cross. They even gave you some fake outs back here. You know, this wasn't right. You started to move down off of a green candle. You know, you got a red, and then the moving averages, you know, start to come down, but not really, because you're dumping off a green. Then you get a green, you know, kind of inside hammer. So, but you didn't get a lower low than the previous candle. So then the next day is a red, you know. You didn't break the high of the green candle and then come down. So that's wrong. Then you get a green. So, you know, they make it tricky in here. Another inside green, but you do get a pump, but it's off of a red, so you can't go, you know. And then it just chops around in here. You start to go again. This is a pretty, you know, this is actually a pretty decent candle to long off of, and you could have caught a little bit of a move to the upside. Very small candle. I probably could have long this. Moving averages are starting to roll up. You get a decent move, but then you kind of, you know, stall out. You get kind of a green reversal here, kind of inverse hammer, and then you dump off of that. But, you know, moving averages are still above the 20, so you got to chop for a while. You can't just really break down from a green candle. You know, you chop for a while, chop for a while. Oh, here's a green hammer. However, the 8's below the 10, so that doesn't look right. You didn't even give a lower low than the red candle, so that doesn't look right. And then you pop just a tiny bit, then you sell down, come back up, get a red hanging man. You know, that doesn't look right to dump off of. So then you get a green. You see how it goes. Like, if it's not set up perfect, you gotta get a perfect setup, you know, to go lower off of. And, you know, let's check the 3-day. You know, here's a red candle with a higher high. You know, they even put in an inside green. That's not right to go higher off of. And here's your red reversal. You know, it's still above the moving averages, but then, you know, your day 2 candle kind of gives it away that they twists over the 10, so it rolls down, and then here's your big candle. Like, these are small, like, 3-day candles. Like, you could have played the 3-day candle on this. Like, it's pretty nice. Did we even have a weekly to jump off of? And yes, we did. You know, almost a double top, but not really. You know, one big wick up, and then you grind a little higher, and then another red with a pretty big size wick. You know, this is where I would be selling this week. Like, if I had one big red reversal candle that we grinded higher off of, and then we got another kind of red reversal, then I start to look short. And look at this next candle I put in. Red reversal inside of this red. You know, the 8 starts to twist over the 10, and then it's game over. Big sell down. So, yeah, gold and silver. Man, I should have traded these. I think gold dropped a lot harder than silver did. I don't know. Oil was an interesting one. Ooh, hold on. Let me go back to Google real quick. Google's actually looking like it's setting up to drop. Look at that candle right there. Wow. Holy moly. This last week's candle, that's a unicorn short on Google. And we've already got a pretty decent sized move. We could see a pretty good sell-off on Google here with this red. We have a higher high on this candle. The moving averages are rolling over the 20. You know, we've kind of chopped along. And then we get this red reversal. Google could come down pretty decent this week. Kind of interesting. I mean, look how many weeks it's been up for. Look at this. The 8 and the 10, this goes back, you know, June 2025. So it's been 3/4 of a year just grinding higher, and now we're just rolling over. So I have a trend line down here at 232. I wonder if we can get to. Maybe I think this is the breakout level too that we broke out of. Yeah, it is. So I think we could come down, maybe set up back test on this trend line, maybe set up down here and then go. So I think this is a really good area down around this 230 to 235 area, and maybe it'll come in like right around in here, like 237. Oil, real quickly. Yeah, oil crashed pretty hard this last week. Kind of got a red reversal. Let me turn off the trend lines, and I gotta go. But it's down off of green on the weekly. Let's see if there was a good daily for oil. No, there really wasn't. It was just kind of a one-day thing right here. We actually had a green hammer that we got up off of, and then they just kind of crashed it. And it had to do with news over in the Middle East. You know, all this was about news in the Middle East. I mean, we were down here, you know, 60, mid 60s, and then we got all the way up to 120. You know, oil just doubled, you know. So let's see what else. I don't know. SPX. I gotta go. But you know, this is interesting how they have it. We did hit a trend line here, so maybe we'll get back up, but there was a big area in here. You know, this trend line, once this trend line up here got broken, you know, we saw a pretty decent move down. Like I said, it was looking sketchy up here. I remember talking about this weeks ago. Like, this was looking very toppy up here. And sure enough, we've come down. You know, it's been hard to trade this though, like with the SPX, because like as it's rolling down, they take out the daily highs and then dump. So like they take out your stop loss and then drop it. You know, they've done it so many times. Like this was actually a really good candle back here, a short. It was a small candle right here. That's a really good candle to short on. This was a good candle to short on right here. But like, you know, you got to be willing to take profit because they'll come up and stop you out. They'll come up and stop you out. Very, very choppy on the way down. But we're at a important trend line right now. And if this trend line breaks, you know, woo. So that is an area to watch. I can even probably take a swing level back here. Let's see, like that. It's not perfect, but it does touch that red day. So, I mean, there's a swing through here. I wonder if this ends up being a head and shoulders type pattern. Like we get like a shoulder here, a head here, and then another shoulder over here, and then dump off of it. Maybe we get relief here soon with the S&P 500 for at least a few weeks, just to chop around, maybe create a shoulder here, and then maybe in May we dump again, or June or something like that. I don't know. Let's see, how many months did this take, or how many weeks did this take? October 10th to November 20th. So what is that, a month and 10 days? So what, 40 days maybe to create another shoulder-ish, you know, maybe it could be smaller, who knows, or bigger. We'll kind of watch it. And and then yeah, it could be toast. Who knows? Like it's out a very important area right there. So we'll keep an eye on it. I mean, it did, come down from where I thought it would. I mentioned that it didn't look right to go higher off of. Got this drawn for NASDAQ. And we came down, pierced through my trend line and got back up into the pattern. So, this actually pattern could be bullish. Maybe we need to complete more, draw this out a little bit longer period of time. Who knows? But maybe it'll come up temporarily and then roll down. And then who knows? Usually you break up out of these, this is a falling wedge type pattern, and you'll come back up. But, we got to see it first. There was our double top back here, and I knew that was a problem. And then we sold down, and now we've been chopping around, and we've come down again. And so we'll kind of see what happens here. So I don't know, stocks are on edge, crypto's on edge. Everything is kind of sketchy. Oil made a nice move. I don't know. We'll keep an eye on it. We'll probably make another video this Sunday and kind of look it over again and see where we're at.